Lord said, "To you who does not cavil, I shall declare this profound secret of wisdom combined with experience, by knowing which you shall be released from evil." The first word of this first verse of the 9th chapter of the Gita is idam, meaning this. Shri Krishna uses the word idam, this, to show that he's showing Arjuna this wisdom. The meaning of Shri Krishna saying this wisdom is that this subject is still playing in God's mind. Arjuna may have been asking other questions and getting other answers from Shri Krishna, but the syllabus of the Lord in the Gita and the wisdom which the Supreme Soul wished to give to Arjuna, and the thread that was left hanging at the end of the 7th chapter is still hanging, and Shri Krishna knows this. That is why Shri Krishna describes it as this wisdom. The word idam, this, is descriptive of this. Just like when we're speaking to someone and they ask us a question while a certain subject is on our minds, then we still remember that we have yet to say this. Then we say that this subject, showing that the subject is still in our minds. Shri Krishna also uses the word anusuya, one who does not cavil. And this is a very important word. The opposite of this word is asuyu, one who does cavil. And this is defined as asuya asti asya iti asuyu. Therefore, a person who does not cavil is anasuyu. Na anasuyu, anasuyu, tasmay anusvay. Therefore, Arjuna is a person who does not cavil. Who is asuya, a person who cavils? There are many meanings given of asuya, but the main 3 reasons that are given us from different scriptures are as follows. The first meaning of asuya is seeing faults in good qualities. This is when a person sees wrong in a good thing. There are 4 types of people described in the Srimad Bhagavad. It says that the greatest of all people are those who only see good qualities. Then the next level are those people who see good qualities and bad qualities separately. At the 3rd level are those people who do not see good qualities and only see bad qualities. Then at the 4th and bottom level are those who see faults even in good qualities. This is asuya, a person who cavils. These people see wrong in good things. This is the attitude of seeing faults. If these people are given important wisdom, then they will just see faults in that wisdom. This is because they have an attitude of seeing wrong in good qualities. They will see faults in good wisdom. Because they will see the faults, they will not apply in practice, and if they do not apply in practice, then they will not see the consequences of attaining that wisdom. If they do not see the consequences of attaining that wisdom, then they will say, "See, I told you that there is nothing in this wisdom." This useless cycle keeps running for them. Important wisdom can only be given to a person who has become anasuya, a person who does not cavil. Asuya, people who do cavil, keep suffering from miseries, as Shri Krishna will explain later in this verse. Those people who are asuya, people who do cavil, keep suffering from miseries. Second, asuya means a person who cannot tolerate another's prestige and preeminence. This is a person who cannot see the progression of others. In simple language, we call this envy. Third, asuya means a feeling of animosity. How can we recognize this feeling of animosity? Every person has this, be it me, you, and all of us. Only we cannot recognize this. This is where the difficulty lies. How can we recognize this? I'll show you in a simple way which I have applied myself in life. I have learnt this while thinking. Whenever we are talking about any person, then we can tell whether what we are saying is righteous or asuya, cavil. If you are talking about a certain topic and mention that person in relation to that topic, then you have the right to talk about that person. You can say anything right or wrong about that person. But if you leave that topic and then begin talking different things about that person, then what you will be saying will be asuya, cavil. Sit down quietly and think about this. I'll give you a small example. There's a cricketer who you read about in the newspapers and the magazines. You also see that the cricketer on television. Therefore, 2 people who get together will talk about that cricketer. While the conversation is focused on how the person plays cricket and whether he's playing well or not, then during that time it is fine. Even if that person scores a century, then you still have the right to see faults in that performance. Even if the person gets a Man of the Match award, then there may not be much weight to what you have to say, but you can still say that this cricketer should not have got the Man of the Match award and they should have given the award to someone else. This is fine. Until then, you are forgiven for what you say. But when you start talking about that cricketer's personal life, then what you will be saying will be asuya, a person who cavils. This is because you have no right to do so. This person is coming in front of you as a cricketer, and therefore what the person is doing in his personal life is none of your business, and it is none of my business. But when that begins, then it is asuya, cavil behavior. There is an actor in films. You can talk about his acting and whether he's acting properly. Until then it is fine. But if you start talking about what he is earning, what he's doing in his personal life, what house he's living in, then this is none of our business. And if people are talking about these things, then this is asuya, a cavil nature. Shri Krishna says in the Gita that such conversations put a person in misery. A person who has conversations like this creates miseries for himself. This is because when the person is talking about this, he does not ruin anything for the person he's talking about, but people create miseries for themselves. Think about it. If I were to say in simple language, then gossiping is unfortunately a favorite pastime of society. If 3 or 4 people are sitting together, then as soon as they begin talking about a person, then the field that the person is in is forgotten to one side. People put this to one side. This can apply to conversations about anyone, be they politicians, religious preachers, etc. If a person is in the field of religion, then the person should only talk about what they're doing in the field of religion. But people talk about what they do in the time outside religious preaching. By doing this, we create sins for ourselves. The person who talks about this is creating miseries not only for himself, but also for the other person. As soon as a person starts talking like this, then one should remind the person that this is asuya, cavil behavior according to the Gita. Animosity is not being able to see another person's progression. While a person has this attitude, then Shri Krishna says that such a person cannot become religious. This cannot happen. While a person has a perspective of seeing faults, then he cannot become religious. The feeling of anasuya, not cavilling, is the beginning of being religious. This is because while a person cavils, then he complains. You also always see that such people will always have a reason to complain. When a person talks about the personal life of a cricketer, then he never praises the cricketer, for example, how nice the cricketer's wife is and so on. Instead, this person criticizes the cricketer because he has a complaint. If a person is talking about how much actors are earning, then what he's doing is complaining. While a person does this, then he does not have peace of mind. This person can never become religious. While a person has feelings of cavilling in his mind, then he has complaints, enmity, instability and turbulence. Shri Krishna says in this verse that the knowledge he is giving Arjun is the king, Rajvidya, king of all knowledges, and Rajiguya, the king of all secrets. And the reason why he is giving this to Arjun is because Arjun is anasuya, a person who does not cavil. Thinkers say that perhaps Shri Krishna has prepared Arjun during the first 8 chapters of the Gita so that attitude that Arjun had can go away. Only then can the highest wisdom be given. While Arjun does not have the eligibility, then he could not have been given this knowledge. If you and I wish to incorporate the Gita into our lives, then think about what our perspective of viewing the world is like. What perspective do we see the world in front of us? We see it from the perspective of asuya, a person who cavils, or do we see it from the perspective of anasuya, a person who does not cavil? If a person sees the world from the perspective of asuya, a person who cavils, then the person is irreligious. Thinkers say that a person may be going to the temple 10 times a day, performing rituals and wearing religious necklaces, but if his perspective of viewing the world remains that of asuya, a person who cavils, and if the person is complaining, then that person is irreligious. On the other hand, if a person views the world as anasuya, a person who does not cavil, then that person will be happy himself, and the person will be religious. A person who is asuya, a person who cavils, and irreligious, such a person has no right to knowledge. A person who has become anasuya, a person who does not cavil, and has left the attitude of asuya, a person who cavils, then this person has become religious and has a right to wisdom. The person can be given the highest level of wisdom. If the highest level of wisdom is given to the wrong person, then there will be destruction. A person needs to have a qualification for this highest level of wisdom. What is our perspective of viewing the world? People ask me whether the world is good or bad. I straight away say that it depends on the perspective with which the person sees the world. There is a rule in psychology from a thinker called Gestalt. Thinkers from this school explain it very beautifully. They say that If you're sitting on the chair inside your house at night and looking outside the window, then your perspective will be what you want to see. A lot depends on this. If you keep looking at the moon, the stars and the nice clouds in the sky and do not stop looking at them, then slowly and slowly you will reach the state where you will forget about the window completely. You will forget the window frame. You will think that the window was not there and only the world is there. You will think that only the moon, the stars and the nice clouds are there in the sky. It is worth trying this. Now if you have a different perspective where you just keep looking at the window and the frame of the window, then the moon, the stars and the nice clouds are still there in the sky, but all of these go into the background. The moment these go into the background, then you lose the bliss in these and you lose the beauty in these. The objects and the circumstances are the same. The window is in its place, the stars are in their places, the sky is in its place, the moon is in its place, the nice clouds are in the places, and you are sitting on the chair. Everything is the same way that it was. But what perspective did you create and what attitude did you have? It all depends on this. When someone asks me whether the world is good or bad, then the straightforward answer is that it depends on the perspective with which you view the world. What do you wish to see in the world? If you yourself are good, then you will only see good things in the world. If you yourself are filled with bad qualities, then you will only see bad things in the world. Cooks know this, that when they are cleaning grains, then they decide that they have to separate the good grains from the bad grains. There are enough grains to fill the plate. From 1 kilogram of grains, 3 bad grains come out. But cooks only see this, and they do not see anything else. It does not matter whether they see good grains, they just wish to find the bad grains. Of course this is necessary, but the cooks have to mentally set themselves so they'll find only the bad grains. If you count the number of grains there are in 1 kilogram of grains, and put this against the number of bad grains, which are 3, then they still look for those 3 bad grains. At that time they do not see the good grains. In the same way, the Supreme Soul has left this plate that is for the world. We have to decide what we want to find in this. If we look for the bad grains, then we will see the bad grains. If we look for the good grains, then you will find the good grains. A person only has anasuya, not counting attitude, when you only start seeing beautiful things. If I were to go even further, then one must know that when one has this perspective, then even the bad grains do not look bad. This is because they even look great in their positions. I'll say this in the next verse. When one has full faith in the Supreme Being, then one can have this perspective towards the world. Anasuya, not caviling, is an attitude given to us from God. Only a person who has the rich attitude of Anasuya, not caviling, can attain the royal wisdom and the royal secret of God. And it's a very great attitude. One should remove looking for faults from his attitude. Modern psychologists are worried about this very thing. Even the rishis who were 1,000 years ago had this worry. Why do human beings look for faults? There are many reasons for which human beings give rise to the attitude of asuya, caviling. One reason is that if a person has done a lot of favors for us, and we cannot repay those favors, then you will find it surprising, but in these circumstances, people will begin seeing faults on this person who has done them favors. Today's psychologists even say this. If you look at world history since ancient times, then you will see that animosity arises between gurus and pupils. We see that a person was a pupil of a guru, and then they split up and the pupil exercises independence. Why does this happen? If a pupil has sat by the guru's feet and has attained wisdom from his guru, then why does the pupil have animosity towards the guru? Psychologists say that there is one reason for this. The pupil has attained so much from his guru, and the guru has no expectation in return. The guru does not ask for anything in return, and everything that the pupil gives to the guru is too less. The pupil knows that what he is giving to his guru is so small when compared to the knowledge which the guru has given him, and the pupil finds this a burden. I'll give you a simple example. Let us say that you take £10,000 from someone, and you have this obligation of £10,000 from this person. He does not ask it from you, because he knows your state is such that you will not be able to pay it back now. He is a very nice person. He does not expect it, and he does not ask for this. He does not keep chains you asking for his £10,000. But we're authentic and clean on the inside, and know that we have to give him back £10,000. But we are not able to pay this money back to him. Then what do? Slowly and slowly, when he comes in front of us on the road, then we instinctively change roads. It is not as if we have contempt for that person, we have respect for that person. It is not even that we do not wish to repay the person, because we do wish to repay him, but we know that we cannot repay that person, and therefore we cannot look at that person in his eyes. The person doesn't even expect us to pay him back, and does not come to us one day asking us to give him £10,000. The person who has given the money to us has a clear conscience, and that is why we change roads. Both the giver and the taker have pure attitudes. That is why we keep going further and further away from this person. This is what happens between the pupil and the guru. The pupil is so burdened as a result of the vast wisdom that his guru has given him. Both the guru and the pupil have pure attitudes. When the guru does not keep any expectations, and the student is authentic from the heart, then the pupil thinks that my guru has given me so much, and I can't even give him anything in return. Slowly and slowly, the pupil unconsciously keeps going further away from the guru. He does not do this on purpose, it is unconsciously. The pupil begins to see faults in his guru. This is what happens. That is why the rishis in the Upanishads said this in their prayers, that Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahanav Dhunaktu, Sarivan Karapvahe, Nav Aditam Tejasvina Vadi Tapastu, Vavit Vishavahi. May we all make efforts together, may we all be protected together, and may we all use what we get together. May we all get together and do courageous deeds. May what we study make our light within penetrate through us. May we not have animosity towards each other when we study together, and when we get together, then may we not have animosity towards others in society. May the feelings of animosity not remain in us. We think a lot about why it says Mavid Vishavahi. May the feelings of animosity not remain in us. Everything else is fine as prayer, but why does it ask why we should not have feelings of animosity towards each other? This is because the gurus knew this. The rishis of the times of the Upanishads knew that this is a very natural feeling. If someone is attained and does not have humility along with this, does not have a feeling of surrender, and does not have an attitude of bowing one's head down, one should say with pride that this is his guru, and whatever he is because of his guru. If one does this, then there are no questions. The egos of people are such that they do not wish to admit this, even though they knew from the inside that everything they have attained is because of their guru. That is why they have a feeling of animosity and asuya, caviling. This happens in many perspectives we have in life. That is why it asks, Mavid Vishavahi. May the feelings of animosity not remain in us in the prayer. What happens because of asuya, caviling? Firstly, if the feeling of asuya, caviling remains, then when God will now reveal this royal secret, people will think that God is being egotistic. This is because the statements that Shri Krishna will make after the 9th chapter are roaring statements. Gatir Bharta Prabhu Shakshi Nivasa Shararam Sulabha. Shri Krishna says, I am the goal, the upholder, the Lord, the witness, the abode, the refuge, the friend. And he says, Ananya Chintayanto Mam Yajana Parupasate. But those who worship me, meditating on me alone, to them who ever persevere, then he says, Tesham Nitya Vyuktam Yogashem Vayam. But those who worship me, meditating on me alone, to them who ever persevere, I bring attainment of what they have not, and security in what they have. Shri Krishna roars so greatly. If a person still has a perspective of seeing faults, then this person will think that God is blowing his own trumpet. This is what such a person will think. This is because one will only realize this when they have the experience that God really does run life. But if a person does not have this experience, then such a person will think that God is being egotistic. That is why it is said from the beginning that one should get rid of this attitude of asuya, caviling. Each and every assurance that God gives us near the beginning of this 9th chapter is God admitting his qualities to the individual soul. God tells the individual soul that he will do this and that, and signs this, stamps that, and affidavits this. In the 10th chapter of the Gita, God will describe his forms and will say that he is prevalent in the whole world. People have written books on the Gita where they do not demonstrate faith in this, and even some Indians do not have faith in this. Sarva dharma vitya jaja mame kancharanam vaja ahampa sarva papebhyo mokshe ikshami mashuka. He who knows me, the unborn, without beginning, also the mighty Lord of the worlds, he among mortals is undeluded and freed from all sins. Even Indians say, look at Krishna's arrogance. Shri Krishna says this verse with pride, and these people see arrogance in this. The reason for this is that the feeling of asuya, cavil, has not gone from them. Therefore, this is what they see. When such verses will come, then I'll speak about them in detail. Secondly, when one is about to speak about the royal secret, then intimacy is needed, otherwise one cannot tell a royal secret. If you are going to tell someone what is in your heart, then they need to be intimate with you. Putting it simply, who can you open a safe in front of? Can you tell all the people who ring the doorbell in your house that there's a safe there? You cannot show this to everyone. You can only show this to someone who is close to you. Until now in your life, how many people have you shown an open safe to? You cannot show it to everyone. Materially valuable items and jewelry are stored in the safe. For us, all of these things are the most precious things. If we cannot show this to someone, and when there is a royal secret of royal wisdom, or wisdom that is the secret of all secrets, then who can we show this to? We can only show this to someone who has become very intimate to us. The first condition needed in order to become intimate is a feeling of asuya, caviling, must go away. The first condition of love is that one does not see the other person's faults. The whole world may come and say that the person has a fault, yet this person can say with pride that no matter what you say, my experience is that the person does not have any faults. I can give many examples of this, but because time is short, I will not go too much into this. Even if someone comes and describes the faults of a person, the hearer does not see those faults. Kalidas writes that when Parvati Ji was performing penances for Shiv Ji, it was Shivratri on Sunday, so we mentioned the story, under the guidance of Narad Ji, that first of all her parents told her that she should not marry Shiv Ji and that there are many other good suitors. Parvati Ji said, no, I will only marry Shiv Ji, I will perform penances. Parvati Ji performed very serious, severe penances after going to the jungle. She would eat whatever fruits came with some seasons and perform penances. When the seasons changed and the fruits stopped coming, and Parvati Ji began eating leaves. But she continued the penances. Because she stopped eating leaves, she was named Aparna, meaning without leaves. When she performed such severe penances, after passing many tests, Shivji himself came in the form of a child to test her. The child form that Shivji was asked Parvati Ji why she was performing such severe penances. Parvati Ji said she was doing it so she could get Shivji as a husband. The child looked surprised and asked her whether she really wanted Shivji as a husband. Parvati Ji said yes. The child asked Parvati Ji if she had seen Shivji. Parvati Ji said no, but I only want Shivji as my husband. The child form that Shivji was in said, I will tell you what Shivji looks like. Kapur Paksha Laksha Janmata Digam Paratha Veditam Vasu. His body is disfigured, his birth is not right, he has no clothes to wear. Before a girl is getting married, she first looks at what her future husband looks like. This is a verse showing what everyone looks for in the boy. Kanyavaryate rupam mata vita pita shutam bandhava kulam vichanti vishta itare jana. The woman looks at what the man looks like, the mother looks at how much money the man has, and the father looks at intelligence. The relatives look at what the man's family is like and what they do, and everybody else, what do? They just look at how good the food is. As scriptures say, what people look for before they get married. The mother thinks that if her son-in-law has a lot of money, then her daughter will be very happy. For the father, it is fine that the son-in-law has slightly less money, but the father will want to see whether the son-in-law is educated and intelligent, because the son-in-law may have millions today, but if he has no intelligence, then he may blow all the money tomorrow. Rather than that, if the son-in-law is intelligent and splendid, then he will earn a lot of money in the future. The woman's relatives will look at what the man's family is like, what they do, and whether they can supply anything to them. They will look at whether the business can get better as a result of this. Everybody else just looks at the food. You see this happening at weddings. 3,000 people come to the reception, and 50 people are taken up in the first three categories. If there is a big family, then 100 people may get taken up. Why else have the other 2,900 people come? That is all they think about. I often say during my discourses that when people print wedding invitations, and it's written, please do come and give your blessings to the newly married couple. If these 3,000 people give their blessings, then the daughter should never be unhappy. If one person gives blessings with his heart, and if one person gives his true blessings, even if years the most commonest people, then it can help the girl throughout her whole life. What then if the 3,000 people give their heartfelt blessings? The bride and the groom will never be unhappy. But we do not see these consequences in society. This is because the blessings were not given. These people have just come to eat the food. They've just come for business. This is a circle of poison, and they had come as part of that circle. They thought that if they do not go, then something else might go. The child form of Shivji told Parvati that Shivji had 3 eyes. Of his eyes one of his eyes is the forehead. If someone opens up a third eye at night, then others will get scared. Shivji had no parents, and nobody knows when he was born or anything about his birth. This is because Shivji was not born at all. Fair enough, people can understand if someone does not look right and has no parents, because this can still work in the material world. If someone has advanced in society after earning money and has good status, and the parents may give him the girl, even if the boy does not have anything else, at least the boy is good, happy, and has 2 to 4 factories. The child form of Shivji also tells Parvati that Shivji does not have any clothes. If somebody has no clothes, then you can tell what the bank balance must be like. There is a very long description by Shivji himself in the child form. Parvati ji stops the child and says, "Child, you are telling me about the faults of my Lord. My Lord has no faults. I can only see good qualities in the faults that you're talking about. You say that his birth is not right, and that is why I want to marry him. If he is not born, then he can never die, and I will forever remain married." Now, one can still give the blessing that Tane Satave Parvati Akhand So Bhagavati. May Goddess Parvati look after you and ensure that you always remain married. What I mean to say is that when one has this level of the feeling of Anusya, freedom from cavil, where even if the world sees faults, that even the person does not see faults, then an intimacy is established. We may be good and we may not see faults in others, but when others describe faults and ask whether we know faults in others, or something else about the person who we're describing, and whether we know anything else apart from the fact that the person is good, then we may not say the faults, but the majority of us will say, "I do not know anything like this about this person, but the way the world is, who knows what he is like in reality." A person should say with courage that, "No, I do not know anything like that about this person." Only then can a person be religious. Only then can a person attain knowledge. Only then can there be true intimacy. Third, what an Asuya, a person who cavils, does is that he breaks, whereas an Anasuya joins. The Supreme Soul looks after our well-being, and the Supreme Soul is an eternal truth. When one's eyes are filled with love, then the perspective of seeing faults goes away. When we were young, then it so happened that while we were playing with one's finger would get hurt, sand would come in someone's eyes, or somebody would get hurt. Because we were children, we would rub our eyes and start crying. All our friends nearby would get together, and what they would do is that they would get somebody's handkerchief and rub them on somebody's eyes. They would count while rubbing the handkerchief, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now the bird has flown off. While the children are crying, then in 85% of the cases the sand will come out of the eyes while crying. Then the pain will go away. If this is done about 10 times and the bird is thrown off, then the pain of the child will go away. The rubbish that was lying there goes away by itself, and the vision of the child becomes clear. In the same way, the game we are playing in life involves so much sand and dirt coming into our eyes. We keep rubbing our eyes. The rubbish does not go away by rubbing our eyes. Instead, if one thinks about the Supreme Soul, then the Supreme Soul will rub his handkerchief, shake the dust off, with what Shri Krishna is saying, and after 18 rubs of the 18 chapters of the Gita, the bird will fly away, and the vision will become clear, and one will be Anusya, free of cavil. One will only be able to see this straight away. All the faults that were there in one's vision will go away. Shri Krishna says in this verse that the wisdom that he is going to reveal is the royal secret. This is a secret worth hiding, and it is extremely secret. It is very much worth hiding. There is only one reason for this. If wisdom gets into the hands of the wrong person who does not have the right to this wisdom, then destruction ensues. If Oppenheimer was sad about one thing in his mind, then it was about one thing, that he found the atomic energy and gave it into the hands of the wrong people. Oppenheimer never thought that this atomic energy would be used to destroy Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that the atomic bomb would be used to kill people. He never thought of it, and Oppenheimer admitted this. If I were to explain in other words, a father works hard and his entire life with blood, sweat and tears, and accumulates a lot of money by building his business empire. He gives all of the wealth to his son, but before dying of old age, the father sees that his wealth is being misused by his son. At that time, the father becomes so sad. Before going, the father looks at whether his son is right to inherit the money. The father looks at whether it is worth giving his wealth to his son or not. If there is royal wisdom, that is the secret of all secrets, then it is because it cannot be given to someone who is not right to receive it. Otherwise it will be misused. Shri Krishna is giving this royal wisdom and royal secret to Arjuna. Shri Krishna says that this is wisdom combined with Vignan, science. Gnayate anena iti gnanam. Wisdom is that from which we learn something. Vishesha gnayate anena iti vignanam. That from which we understand the characteristics of something is experience. Vignate sahitam iti vigna sahitam. Wisdom backed up with experience is wisdom together with experience. What is the difference between knowledge and experience? We saw in the 7th chapter, but I'll make two things clear as we move ahead. The contents of scriptures and understanding about truth is knowledge. But experience of the contents of the scriptures or the truth by oneself is experience. If we define Vijnana as just science, then this would be shrinking its meaning. According to Gita, Vijnana is one step higher than just knowledge. If we learn something through words, then it is knowledge, but when it becomes our experience, then it becomes Vijnana. This is what is at the root of Vijnana. Scientists do not believe in anything and need things to be proved in a laboratory. The limits of defined Vijnana as science is that science only believes something that is within the hold of the senses. This is the limits of science. I'm saying this to separate the words Vijnana and science. What we call modern science, that has particularly developed in the Western world, has a limit that although it believes in experience, it only believes in those experiences within the hold of the senses. Knowledge, on the other hand, is something that is not within the hold of the senses, but which is past the senses. Therefore, experience would be a more accurate definition of Vijnana. There is a difference between experiments and experience. While experimenting, you are isolated. If you put base in acid, then you get salt and water, but you are isolated from all of this as an external observer. With experience, on the other hand, you have to be involved. Until you are not involved, then you will not be able to have an experience. Love is an experience. You cannot look at love from the outside. We see love stories in films, but we do not love there. When we ourselves are in love, and we have experienced it, then this is different from what we see in films. This is a distinct difference between experiments and experience. Vijnana is not experiments, Vijnana is experience. In the second meaning, saints say that strongly believing that God is the reason for the whole world is knowledge, but the experience that there is no other truth apart from God is Vijnana. There is a difference between the two. It is easy to say that everything that is there is God, but one can only know that there is nothing apart from God when one has experience. If I were to say this in simple language, then if one says that a person makes very nice cooking, then this is knowledge, but if one person says that this person never makes bad cooking, then this is Vijnana, experience. One can only know that person never makes bad cooking through experience, and not just days of experience, but years of experience, that people have been eating this person's cooking for years, and it has never been bad. Saying that the person has called one to eat twice, and that on both occasions the food was nice is knowledge. Only one knows that this person makes good food when called to do so, but saying that this person never makes bad food is Vijnana, experience. Saying that God is in the world, and that God is the reason for the world is knowledge, whereas saying that there is nothing in the world apart from God is Vijnana, experience. Shri Krishna is saying that he's going to give knowledge because he's going to say it with words, and he's also going to give this knowledge together with Vijnana, experience. Knowledge together with Vijnana, experience is not something that you can talk about. One cannot understand knowledge by just talking. The problem with today's times is that people are trying to attain knowledge by talking. People want to know about knowledge. How can you talk about knowledge? A saint was walking through a town, and the people in the town had heard a lot about the fame of the saint, that he was very knowledgeable, and that he was a realized soul. The people in the town requested that the saint would speak to them, and a time was arranged at 8 p.m. in the town. The whole town got together because it was announced that the saint was going to give a talk. The people got together, and the saint asked the question to the people in the town who had got together. The saint asked the people whether they believed in God. The people in the town said, "Yes, we believe in God," all in one voice. The saint asked the people who believed in God to raise their hands. All the people raised their hands. The saint smiled and forwarded his hands to everyone, and then walked away. The people in the town found this strange, and wondered why the saint had gone away. The 5 to 7 organizers went to the saint and asked him why he walked away without saying anything. The saint said that there was nothing left to say. I was going to talk about the Supreme Soul, but all the people in the audience believe in the Supreme Soul and know what God is, so what could I say about something which everyone in the town knows about? There was nothing to say, and so I walked away without saying anything. On the second day, the people in the town asked the saint to give another discourse at 8 p.m. that night. The organizers went to everybody's house and told them that when the saint asked a question like the one he'd asked yesterday, then they should say that they do not believe in God. The organizers thought that the saint would not then be able to go anywhere and would have to talk. The whole town got together the next day, and the saint came to the holy speaker's seat. The Sanskrit word for holy speaker's seat is Vyaspit. The saint once again asked the question about whether all the people believe in God. All the people in the town said, "No, we do not," in one voice. The saint asked those people who believed in God to raise their hands, nobody raised their hands. Not a single hand rose. Everybody said that they do not believe in God. The saint once again folded his hands to everyone and walked off. The saint did not say anything. The organizers once again asked the saint what happened and told the saint that he should have said something because everybody said that they do not believe in God. The saint said, if nobody in the audience believe in God, then if I talked about something that people do not believe in, then what meaning would it have? It will be completely useless to talk to people about something they do not believe in. If someone said that they do not believe in America, then what use would describing America to them be? The organizers were once again confused about what they should do. They asked the saint to come back again tomorrow, and the saint told them that he would always come if he asked them to come. The organizers decided that half of the people should raise their hands and that half of the people should not. They went around to all the people's houses and told them to do this. They organized it so exactly 50% of the audience members would put their hands up. The saint asked the same questions on the third day, that how many people believe in God. 50% of the people in the audience said that they believed in God, and 50% of the people said that they don't believe in God. The saint told them that the people who believe in God should raise their hands. Exactly 50% of the people in the town in the audience raised their hands. The saint folded his hands towards them and walked off. The saint did not say anything. The organizers went to the saint and asked him why now he did not say anything, because he should have said something. The saint said, it is very straightforward. The people who believe in God should explain God to the people who do not believe in God. 50% of the people in the audience believe in God, so what would I need to say? Why do I need to say something from the outside? The 50% of the people who believe in God should just say what is on the inside. What I mean to say is that knowledge is not something you can talk about. Knowledge is something that you have to think about. We need to think about the fact that Shri Krishna says that the knowledge he is about to reveal is the supreme secret, the royal secret. Guhya atum yogyam iti guhyatamam. That which is worth hiding is the supreme secret. There are three daughters, Guhya, good, Guhyatara, better, and Guhyatama, the best. We learn two things related to this in the scriptures. If nature thinks that something is knowledge, then that is good knowledge. Good knowledge. If the person thinks that something is knowledge, then it is, if the soul thinks that something is knowledge, then it is better knowledge, and this is 1 degree higher than nature. If God thinks that something is knowledge, then it is the best knowledge. If God thinks that it is knowledge, then it is the supreme secret. Other saints say that if something is a religious secret, then it is a good secret. Not every person understands religion. People understand how to perform rituals, but they do not understand religion. People understand how to apply tilak, sacred marks on their foreheads, but they do not understand the feeling of surrender. The secret of penances is better, and the secret of the truth with a capital T is the best. Therefore the Supreme Soul will talk about the highest truth and will talk about himself. In the 7th chapter, Shri Krishna also said that he would give wisdom together with Vignan experience by means of the Vignan experience of a devotee. The name of the 7th chapter is Gnan Vignan Yoga, the yoga of wisdom and science. This is the Vignan experience of a devotee. There are many different types of devotees and so many different actions of devotees. Shri Krishna said in the 16th verse of the 9th chapter, will say in the 16th verse of the 9th chapter, that there are 4 perspectives with which people go to the Supreme Soul. So he said this in the 16th verse of the 7th chapter, that there are 4 perspectives with which people go to the Supreme Soul. Arto jignasu artati ganicha bharata shabha. The virtuous ones who worship me are of 4 kinds. The man in distress, the seeker for knowledge, the seeker for wealth, and the man of wisdom, O Lord of the Bharatas. The 7th chapter of the Gita was about the Vignan experience of devotees. The 8th chapter of the Gita was about the habits and Vignan experience of devotion. In the 8th chapter, Shri Krishna explained how devotees should perform penances and how to attain this ultimate state after dying. Now in the 9th chapter, Shri Krishna is going to explain and describe God. This is God's Vignan experience. This is the Lord's Vignan experience. Therefore the 7th chapter was about the Vignan of devotees, the 8th chapter was about the Vignan experience of devotion, and the 9th chapter is about the Vignan experience of God. This is how the devotee wishes to attain God through the devotee's devotion and the Vignan experience of God. There are 3 steps that God has given. God's form and God's capability will be shown in this chapter. We have seen the difference between wisdom and Vignan experience earlier in this chapter. Shankaracharya says that Vignan is Anubhav Yuktam, the use of experience. I wrote earlier that the knowledge is the contents of the scriptures and understanding truth, whereas Vignan is one's own experience from what one has learnt from the contents of the scriptures about truth. I also said earlier that strongly believing in God is a reason for the world, that God is a reason for the world is knowledge, whereas experience that there's nothing else in the world apart from God is Vijnan experience. When it becomes proximate, then one realizes that there is nothing in the world apart from God. In the first 3 verses of the 9th chapter of the Gita, Shri Krishna explains knowledge, and in the 4th to 6th verses, Shri Krishna explains Vijnan experience. We will see as we will go further. The third difference between knowledge and Vijnan experience is that knowledge is something that is gathered from the senses, whereas Vijnan experience is experience from conduct. This is experience gained from going to the depths of one's soul. As you read this chapter, you will certainly get wisdom because you will get it through the sense, because you get it through the senses. You read the book from your eyes, you listen to it from your ears, you get knowledge, but you will need to attain wisdom from the depths of your soul and translate that into experience. Through your conduct, this will become your experience, and then this will become Vijnan. At that moment, we can say that this 9th chapter of the Gita is Gnan, wisdom or metaphysical truths, together with Vijnan, detailed knowledge or scientific knowledge or experience. Knowledge is that which comes within the hold of the senses, whereas Vijnan comes with experience and through conduct. Metaphysicists say that Gnan, wisdom or metaphysical truths, can be beyond our perception, whereas Vijnan, detailed knowledge or scientific knowledge or experience, is always within our perception. Srimad Adi Shankaracharya wrote a very beautiful scripture called Aparakshano Bhuti. Gnan, wisdom or metaphysical truths, are beyond our perception. The words you are reading or the words you are listening to are Gnan, wisdom, or knowledge beyond your perception. This is because it is probably not clear within our own minds what God is going to say in the 9th chapter Gita, and therefore it is beyond your perception. You are attaining this Gnan, wisdom, but when it becomes your experience, then it is within your perception. The scriptures tell us what the difference between something that is within our perception and something which is beyond our perception is. Asti brahmati chet veda paroksham gnanam etavat. Wisdom or metaphysical truths about Brahman and Brahman's forms are beyond our perception. Descriptions about Brahman, the forms of Brahman, the nature of Brahman, etc. are wisdom or metaphysical truths beyond our perception. A person who says, I am Brahman, is describing Gnan, wisdom that is beyond our perception. Vijnan, experience, is within our perception. This is the difference between Gnan, wisdom, and Vijnan, experience. Shri Krishna tells Arjuna that now he will explain this to him. Shri Krishna uses the word pravakshami, meaning that he will not just tell it, but he will tell it very beautifully and comprehensively. Shri Krishna says by knowing this, Arjuna will be released from all evil. Shri Krishna uses the word gnatva, meaning having known. The tva at the end of this word shows that something is completed. For example, bhuktva means having eaten. Patitva means having read. Bodhanam bhuktva means having eaten rice. Pustakam patitva meaning having read a book. These are all incomplete words, and gnatva, having known, is one of these. Its completion only comes with moksha, when one attains liberation from ashubhat, evils. One will become liberated from all evils. What is ashub, evil? Na shubham iti ashubham tasmat ashubhat. That which is not pure is evil. What is impure? Think about it. What do we call impure? You may make a list of things such as anger, falsity, greed, impure thoughts, worry, insincerity, gossiping, ill will towards others, envy, caviling, ego, that from which no good will be done to others, etc. We can come up with a list of so many things, but there is one thing that you will not say because you think that it is impure. Death. As soon as 5 people are sitting together and one of them begins talking about death, then everyone will tell that other person to be quiet, saying that it is impure to talk about death. First of all, death is impure. Thinking and talking about death is impure. What Shri Krishna says to Arjuna is that he will be liberated from all evils. This means that Arjuna will be firstly liberated from death. By being liberated from death, this does not mean that death will not come and that person will keep living. It's not like that. Death will come, but one will no longer have the fear of death. One will no longer be scared at the thought of death. That is the state of which one will reach. Everything that was mentioned on the above list of things that are impure is correct, and I could write about each of them or speak about each of them for a long time, but I'm mentioning the ones that were left out. The second thing that is impure is sorrow. We are all in this category because nobody likes sorrows, and yet these sorrows come. Sorrows are like little sons because they cannot live without coming to you. They certainly come. Why do sorrows come? During ancient times, not just in one place, but in all the religions of the world, for example, Judaism, Vedic religion, and Oriental religions, the reasons for sorrows was given. Even the most recent religions have searched for the reason of sorrows. If any religious person or religious preacher goes to people taking religion to them, the person will say, "We are ready to do what you say, but what will get us out of this?" Any person would ask this. So the first thing that the religious person or religious preacher will say is that this person has sorrows, and that this is the solution to get rid of the sorrows. If one wishes to give others the solution to get rid of the sorrows, then one should first find out the reason for sorrows. The relative recent religions have said that the reason for sorrows is sin. If you study religions such as Christianity and Islam, then you'll see that they say that the reason for sorrows is sin. In Christianity there is a phrase, the original sin. They say that Adam and Eve went to the Garden of Eden and they committed a sin by eating the forbidden apple, and the whole world became filled with sin, sin, sin. This became known as original sin. Islam also says that the reason for sorrows is sin. It says that a person has sorrows because the person commits sins. Ancient thinkers have gone a step ahead of this and have said that it is right that sins lead to sorrows and the principles of karma, because if one person commits sin, then the bad consequences come, and if a person does a good deed, then he will get merits. But they have asked about why a human being commits sins. That is why these thinkers have said that there is a reason for sins, and this is ignorance. This is the reason for sins. Ignorance is therefore a sorrow. If a person gets knowledge, then that person cannot commit any sins. A small child does not know and is ignorant, and that is why the small child puts his hand in fire. But once the small child gets knowledge that he will get burnt if he puts his hand in fire, then it will give him pain, then the small child does not put his hand in fire. In the same way, human beings do not know that the consequence of sins is sorrow. You will understand when you become conscious about it, because we all say that we are good and that we know that committing sins leads to sorrows, yet we still commit them. If a person knows that sins lead to sorrows, and yet they still commit sins, then the scriptures say that such a person only has information and not gnan, wisdom, together with vignan, experience. People know about that they should not commit sins, and they hear this being said. Religious preachers have been saying this for so many thousands of years that the voices must be tired. We all listen to this, but this has not become gnan, wisdom together with vignan, experience, because we have not experienced what we have heard. That is why punarapi janam, punarapi maram, punarapi jani, jatasha. These things keep running, and one keeps falling into this confusion. Metaphysically, if we go even one step forward, then what is ignorance? Why does a person commit sins? Vedanta says that the root of ignorance is identification that the human being has with his body. This is evil. The scriptures say that having a relationship with something that is not truth is evil. If no good will come out of something, then that thing is evil. How does this happen? When a person has a relationship with something that is not truth, then this is evil. That which is not permanent is not truth. A person who identifies himself with something that is not truth, then a chain of evil begins. This body is not truth because the body is not permanent and the body is not eternal. The identification we have with the body that is temporary is not truth. The moment when one identifies himself with this truth, then he becomes released from the identification with evil. What is truth? It is the soul, and the soul is in reality your true form. Shri Krishna said in verse 20 of chapter 2 of the Gita that Najayate mite vakatachin naya buddha bhavita nubha ajo nitya shasvato yam purano mayante hanyamani sharire. He is never born, nor does he die at any time, nor having once come to be will he again cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, permanent and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Pura api nutanatat puranam. That which does not age is primeval. The soul is primeval. If you look at the millions of years of time, then how many years has the soul been existent for? We cannot even measure this. Millions of years of God, but has the soul become old? No, because the soul is primeval. Forgetting the identification with the soul and identifying oneself with the body is evil. The reason why the individual soul has to go through 8.4 million bodies in order to attain a human birth is because of this identification with the body. Therefore, the first thing that is evil is death. The second thing that is evil is sorrow. Third, ignorance is the reason for sorrow. And fourthly, that are not dear to us, those that are not dear to us, be the people, objects, events or circumstances, are evil. When you reach the office in the morning and meet a person who you do not like in a lift, then you think about how your day will go because you met that person first. This is evil because the person is not dear to us. This is the feeling of every person. Every person has this imagination in their minds. Why do we feel as if certain people, objects, circumstances of events are not dear to us. Why do you feel as if some people do not like other people? Why do we like people and we do not like other people? Why do you have attraction and repulsion? The reason for this is that not every person sees the ultimate truth. That is why some of these are dear to us and some of them are not so dear to us. The knowledge which Shri Krishna is giving Arjuna in the 9th chapter will be the truth which will lead to Arjuna attaining wisdom, and this will be Gnan, wisdom, together with Vignan, scientific knowledge, experience. When a person identifies himself with the soul, then all his faults go away. Then who would have an ego? Who will have ill will? Who will cavil? The first thing that we must understand is that the identification we have with something that is not truth, i.e. the material world, and the 5-foot toy of the body, which is also part of the material world, is not actual but something which we have believed. It is only because we have believed this that the liberation is possible. We have mistakenly believed that we are the body. That is why liberation is possible. Srimad Adi Shankaracharya Ji has interpreted Shri Krishna's words of Ashubhat, Mokshasya, as liberation from the evil that is bondage to the material world. Why does evil happen after one comes into the material world? Because the material world is very good. What bad has the material world done to us, and how could the material world have ruined us? The material world has not ruined anything of us, but we have ruined ourselves after living in the material world. How can the material world ruin us? Do all these beautiful plants ruin us? They do not ruin us, anything of ours. A beautiful flowing river does not ruin anything for us. Do the rays of the sun that rise in the morning ruin anything for us? Do the streams and rivers that merge into the sea ruin anything for us? We ruin it, but it does not ruin anything of ours. The material world does not ruin anything of us, but the wrong thoughts that we have after living in the material world lead to the consequence of evil being projected in the material world. What thoughts are these? The first thought is that after living in the material world, we think that we have nobody of our own. This is the first of all evils. One thinks that one is alone and that nobody cares about him. He thinks that nobody bothers. A person becomes so weak. This is the first weakness a person has. He thinks that he has nobody of his. And these thoughts are such that they like to make a person play and sit in a person's mind, creating self-pity. The person thinks that there is nobody for him and that everybody else is happy. The person thinks that he has done so much for everybody else and other people have not done anything for him. This is evil. If you want to become an astrologer, then it is so easy. You only have to take someone's palm in your hand and say things that the other person will say yes to, and not things that the person will say no to. If a fortune teller tells you that you do so much for other people and yet nobody does anything for you, then you say that the fortune teller is correct. Would anybody say no to this? The fortune teller may tell us that we suffer so much for other people and nobody cares about us. This is the very first impurity of all. What happens when one has this belief is that a cold war begins. On one side is us alone, and on the other side there is the whole world. This is because you think that nobody cares about you. A person thinks that his wife does not care about him, his children do not care about him, his parents don't care about him, his relatives do not care about him, and his friends do not care about him. The person thinks that nobody cares about him and that he is alone. The person thinks that he has to fight this battle of life. On one side is him alone, and on the other side is the whole world. This war is going on, and the funny thing is that every person is having this war in the world. How can one win this war? Just see it in people's faces. After 40 years, a person is bored, tired, worried, sad, unsound, etc. And you can see this on a person's face. Until the age of 40, the person thinks that he will do everything and show people, but when the person turns 40, then he realizes that nothing has been done. He thinks that he is on one side and the whole world is on the other side. The person has this war going on. If you ask any person age 40 how his life is going, then he will say he's just putting on. He's putting on like a donkey. The second of all evils is that the person thinks that he is doing everything and that he has to do everything. This is an evil thought. Thinking that one is a doer is ignorance. People like thinking that what would happen if I was not there? Even if this person was not there, then everything would go fine. It would definitely be nicer without him being there. It is not about what would happen if he was not there, but about how nice things would be if he were not there. The third of all evils is thinking that one is enjoying everything. This attitude of enjoying creates evil in a person. Firstly, helplessness and weaklessness, where one thinks that he is alone and does not have anyone of his, is evil. Secondly, this egotism of thinking that one is doing everything is evil. Thirdly, the attitude of being the enjoyer, what we call the attitude of Ravan, and Yato Ratna Bhuja Vayam. Everything that is there in the world should be mine, and I want to enjoy everything. I will take everything that is great, is evil. When the 16th chapter of the Gita will come, then we'll see this where Shri Krishna describes the characteristics of demon as Ishvaro aham bhogi, siddho aham vanshuki, yakshe daksho disha itya, agnana vimotita. I am the Lord, I am the enjoyer, I am successful, mighty and happy. Thus they say, deluded by ignorance. Itya agnana vimotita asura. A person who is deluded by ignorance is a demon. This person thinks that I am the God, I am the enjoyer. Everything is about I, and I. The more a person has this attitude, then the closer he is to the attitude of a demon. Ignorance is evil, and such a person is deluded by ignorance. Shri Krishna says that one has to be liberated from this. What is this liberation? The biggest liberation is liberation from mistakenly thinking that the untruth of the material world is one's own. And this liberation is possible. In the next verse, Shri Krishna will explain that it is very easy to practice and is not as difficult to reach as the sky. This liberation is possible. The reason why it is possible is because this thinking is not in fact, this thinking is not in fact arisen as a result of error, and an error can always be corrected. If not today, then tomorrow, and if not tomorrow, then in 2 years, and it is not in 2 years, then in 2 births. But because it is a mistake, it must be corrected. We cannot change that which is real, but we can change something that is an error. If someone thinks that he is the material world, that the material world is his, or that he is alone, and that nobody else is his, then this is a thinking that has arisen as a result of error. One must leave this. Saints give us a very beautiful example of stains being removed from clothes. While one does not know about them, then the stains will remain. If I wear a piece of clothing and it has a stain on it, then if I do not know about it, then the stain will remain in the clothing. But if someone tells me that there is a stain on my clothing, and I find out about the stain, the first thing that I'll do is to think about how can I remove that stain. While this ignorance is there and one does not find out, then this ignorance will keep running. But the moment that the human being finds out that this is thinking induced by error, then the human being immediately begins making efforts to become liberated from this thinking. And a human being can become liberated from this because the stain is separate from the clothing. The stain is not a part of the clothing, and the stain is not made out of the same material as the clothing. If there was a mistake in the weaving of the clothes, then that mistake cannot be corrected, and one would have to sell the clothing at a loss. But if the clothing is perfect and there is a stain on the clothing, then that stain can go away. This is because the stain is not a fact and it is an error. That is why it can be removed and the clothing can be cleaned. Secondly, if you look at it logically, then the clothing was there before the stain was there. First the clothing came and then the stain came. If something came later, then it can be removed first. If the stain had come before the clothing, then one would have to take out the clothing and the stain would just be there. But first the clothing was there and then the stain came on top of it. The thing that came on top can remove first and the clothing will remain the same. This individual soul in existence is a divine part of the Supreme Soul first, and ignorance came later. Because this ignorance came later, this ignorance can be removed first and the soul will remain just like it is. Liberation is possible. Not only that, liberation is our right. Thirdly, the clothing and the stain are both different, and that is why the stain can be removed. If they were both the same, then it would not be possible to remove the stain, but the clothing and the stain are both different. There is a duality between the two. In the same way, the individual soul and ignorance, this individual soul and evil are not the same by nature, they are different by nature, and that is why they can be removed. If sand gets into the other sand, then it is impossible to separate them, but if you find stones in the sand, then you'll be able to remove the stones in the sand. You'll be able to find the stones. It is possible to separate them. If you pour half a kilo of wheat into a kilo of wheat, then it will not be possible to separate them, but if you put half a kilo of rice into a kilo of wheat, then you'll see that they are different, and you'll be able to separate them and to remove the rice. This is because the two are different. In the same way, this individual soul and ignorance are both different. They are not the same, and that is why liberation is possible. Therefore, penances, devotion, and the path of yoga are like this activity of removing the stains from the clothing. This is what Shri Krishna will show in this chapter. Firstly, we should know that this stain can be removed. If the stain cannot be removed, then all of these are futile exercises. The stain can be removed. This indestructible individual soul that is part of the Supreme Soul becomes separated from the Supreme Soul and goes into the body. Then after saying mine, mine and mine, it accumulates stains on it from the material world. As soon as this individual soul turns towards God, then the stains begin to become removed and the cleansing process starts. This is what the path of yoga, devotion and penances is. God runs the dry cleaner laundry so that all the stains can become removed. This process is the royal wisdom and the royal secret. What is this wisdom and what is this activity? A description of the activity, but not of the activity itself, is described by Shri Krishna in the next verse.